find my way tonight, way tonight.
Tips for dealing with the bag. So perhaps you're renting in a property where it is run by a body corporate.
Understanding the basic calculation, income minus expenses, and you want to be left with a positive income.
It is a very tough game. It's not easy at all.
To stay ahead of knowing exactly what your clients need, what their teething issues are.
Have a joint move-in inspection.
That a lot of people that are coming into sectional title homeowners associations are, just like you described, not only first-time homeowners, but first-time owners and residents in community schemes.
They get to see the perspective from the other side of the aisle. And I think that's a really important thing to do.
It's a market that's estimated to be transacting at least 9 billion rand per year. So it's a huge market.
In order to get there, you need to be able to build up a track record.
Your cash flow model needs to be sharp.
A quote comes to mind. The best time to buy a property was about 10 years ago. The next best time is now.
Good evening and welcome to episode 51 of the Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Zamantungwa. It's a Tuesday, and this evening's topic is going to be such an interesting one, especially for those of us, whether you want to sell your property or, of course, you're going to be renting out your property. We're looking at DIY hacks for staging your property, whether it's for rental or for sale. So if you know that you're going to be putting up your property, especially for rental, I know a lot of us are probably looking for different tenants perhaps for next month. These are some of the hacks and tricks that you want to learn all about to make sure that you get the best tenant as quickly as possible, and you can do so just by changing how you stage your house. But before we get into that, of course, we will be giving away that 5,000 Rand prize at the end of the show. So all you have to do is just stay tuned in. We've already got all the names. It's over 40,000 people who stand or who will be going into the draw. I think it was actually around 46,000, and we'll be announcing that winner later on in the show. But we're still running that amazing competition where we're asking you all about your property dreams, goals, and ambitions. All you have to do is share them below, whether you're sharing them on Facebook or on YouTube, it doesn't matter. We'll be able to read your comment. And the best two dreams, aspirations, goals are going to walk away with that 1,000 Rand prize. And that, of course, is going to be next week, Friday. I've been quite excited to read some of the different entries that we've been reading. I know a lot of us, and certainly people who watch the Private Property Podcast, have quite a number of different property ambitions and goals that we want to tackle this year. So do share them with us, and of course, you stand to walk away with one of two 1,000 Rand prizes. Now, or rather 1,000 Rand prizes. Now, of course, I want to introduce this evening's guest, and that is Athi, who is the head of property design, and she's a home staging consultant at CASA GRANDE. Athi, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Hi, Zama. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute privilege. I hope that everyone is at home, safe, and having a good evening. So I'm very excited today and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Athi. I do hope people, of course, are at home and are staying safe. We've seen the numbers. I think yesterday it already hit 100,000, infections in terms of, people who are currently are active cases of the coronavirus. So we do hope that you're taking every precautionary measure at home with your family. Now, Athi, let's explore this one. I mean, so we are, of course, property enthusiasts, and that's why viewers at home are tuned into the Private Property Podcast. Whether we are looking to buy or perhaps looking to sell our property, we already have a few properties that we put up for rental. What are some of the tips and tricks that we can essentially use when we want to stage our homes for, optimal, I'll almost say returns, because I think sometimes it's very easy for a property that could, in theory, be the right property, but not get the right, whether it's tenants or buyers. And sometimes it's probably not even the property itself. It might be the way we present that property to, prospective renters or prospective buyers. Can you take us through some of the DIY hacks that we should be mindful of? And maybe let's look at it per room, because I think different types of properties obviously have, different considerations. So what would you say for, people perhaps with smaller houses or smaller properties versus, for example, bigger properties?
All right. Okay, Zama. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to almost create kind of like a step-by-step process for everyone at home. And I just want to put out a disclaimer that these are things that you can do at home and by yourself, and they're meant to be affordable. So you can do it completely by yourself, and you don't need to break the bank in order for you to do these things. So the first thing with home staging, even before we focus on the rooms, we need to remember 3 things. And the first one is deep clean in any room, right, before we start. And the reason for that is that you don't want to actually have kind of like a bit of dust blocking lighting through the windows or having a lot of like clutter around your house. So it's called cleaning and decluttering. And for any room that you are going to actually stage, you need to make sure that you've covered your bases. And that's just creating a blank canvas. And ways in which you could do this is just to make sure that you've got a storage place. You can either use your garage, or if you can afford it, you can obviously get a place for you to store your items. And then for example, your living room is one of the most important places where people make a mistake of not depersonalizing. So first you clean, then after that you have to declutter, and then you have to depersonalize. So depersonalize speaks about removing anything that would make it hard for the buyer to imagine themselves in the space. Because remember, you want them to visualize how they will use it. So if, for example, you've got a picture of you guys in Durban, the buyer is now looking at, oh, wow, this family visited Durban, instead of looking at the beautiful kitchen island, that you have in your kitchen. So depersonalizing helps people focus on the most important part of your home, which is the idea of home staging and property design. So preparing your home in such a way that it's not distracting. You are actually not distracting from the most important parts of your home, but actually making them focus on the most important parts of your home. So what I want to do is just the 3 basics, right? Even before we speak about the what you put, where do you put it, those 3 things, just by cleaning, decluttering, as well as then depersonalizing. I think the last one is very hard, because people will be like, your taste is hard. You think that your taste is everyone's taste. However, not everyone is a Game of Thrones enthusiast, or collecting swords or something like that. It's a niche kind of taste. So you want to make sure that in your living room, especially as well, fridges where you've got pictures, try to have neutral pictures that are not going to take away from someone focusing on the most important parts of your property.
And as we're even saying that, part of me is thinking of my own living space and thinking, if I had to, maybe put this property up, whether it's for rental or for sale, I actually need to remove some few items. And as much as I've tried to keep it as modern as possible, there's still certain items, Case in point being my fridge. My fridge has all sorts of different pictures and, from all over the world as I'm traveling. And so it's a very personalized space. And I mean, I think I was saying to you, I've viewed properties that were in such a bad, in bad shape. And this was the internal bits that were, in bad shape. Carpets, for example, weren't even deep cleaned. And if anything, before I even look at the space, I'm already thinking this carpet is so dirty. If I had to, I'd probably have to take it out. Whereas if it was clean, it probably wouldn't have distracted me as much. And certainly, especially when you're even looking at places that are already for rental. And perhaps you can share tips for us, because I think sometimes as a landlord, by the time it's towards the end of a lease agreement, for example, for your current tenant, perhaps they're not looking to stay because of, whatever reason, perhaps they want to upgrade or they'll be moving out of town. It becomes very difficult to get a sense of how the property looks like. I mean, you're able to go in there before the time when other people are going to view, but there isn't really much you can change in that person's space because that tenant is already there. And obviously then other people are now coming to view, and we obviously want to, as much as possible, not have our properties vacant in between lease agreements. So what are some quick, I'll say, tricks for properties that are currently have tenants in them, for us to be able to make sure that even when those are staged, when a landlord comes in, or perhaps even when an estate agent comes in, they're able to have a quick chat with the current tenant and be able to strategically move certain things so that it's still looking, tidy, but also just pleasing to the eye and potentially attractive to new renters.
Okay, so when we're dealing with a stage property, we always look at the relationship between the furniture and the space. So for instance, some places are small, but then the furniture is bulky or too big. So something that you could do is keep the layout more or less the same, but remove the most bulky parts, like for example, a couch that blocks the flow of an open plan, right? That is something that a lot of people are actually looking for. Open plan houses, we know, are more in demand. The demand for them are usually higher because people just like the layout. But then if you've got bulky furniture in small spaces, that is something that you can kind of like remove and see how the flow of the house is going to change. Alternatively, if you've got really big spaces and like small furniture, you can find really nice statement pieces to fill out the place a little bit more without having to change too much into the property, obviously, because you have to respect the current tenant, but you just need to make sure that there is kind of like slight changes. You can also use, for example, a living room. Say, for instance, the living room is like small, right? So light colors actually attract like light, right? So they bring in the light into the room. So if you can find a way in which you can make sure that if you're bringing in more light, you can have light paint. And this is actually the oldest trick in the book, is painting the place. So that has the potential of increasing the property value while also allowing, kind of staging without making huge and almost uncomfortable changes for your current tenant, right? So that's something that you can actually look at to make sure that you still facilitate your current tenants right now in preparation for staging without having to like move their stuff or give them too much admin.
I'm joined this evening by Athi, and she's the head of property design and home staging consultant at CASA GRANDE. And of course, if you've got any questions or comments on tonight's evening, where we're looking at DIY hacks for staging your property. This could be a rental property or property that you're about to put up for sale. Do send us through those questions. Athi, one of the questions that's comes in from Usimpiwa Sangwen, who says, interesting topic, where does one get the furniture for staging? So this would essentially even be for when you're about to sell your property, and let's assume or it's vacant, perhaps you bought off plan and you're able to buy it quite low from the developer, but you now obviously want to stage it before you essentially sell it, instead of people viewing an empty space. So you almost want to give them a slight idea. And we tend to see these a lot, in showrooms where you are able to get a sense of what you're able to do with the space, because sometimes empty spaces, it's hard for you to kind of imagine what you can do with that space. So where can we get some of that furniture for staging?
Okay, so Actually, there are a lot of furniture rental companies that are available. There are some in Cape Town that I know, and I know the furniture is really, really modern and really, really nice. So you can always just have a look to look for furniture rental companies. If you are using a home stager such as ourselves, you usually find that they come with their own merchandise in terms of having their own inventory that they're going to decorate the space with. Of course, that belongs to the stager in most cases. So if you have a stager, then they will be able to bring their own stuff on site on your behalf or rent it out for you. Alternatively, if you don't want to obviously buy, but you're looking to rent, then there are a kind of facilities where you would be able to rent it for a specific period of time, and then you would then be able to showcase, and stage it appropriately. So that option is available for people who are looking to rent.
So, as you know, one of the things that you actually highlighted when we were speaking a bit earlier off air is that each room needs to narrate a story. So now, as you're staging, perhaps take us through, the different rooms and how we should be thinking through even the story that those different rooms should be telling, especially for people who are looking to sell their homes. Because I think sometimes with rental, people kind of have a sense, some of them might have their own furniture, they'll be bringing them in. They're not sometimes as emotionally attached to the place because they're not, they know that they'll be there just for 1 year. But you certainly have to almost rethink how you stage a place for a family perhaps, or even, a young couple that's about to move in, because certainly for them, the consideration is slightly different from if they were simply renting out a place.
Yes, so and that's very important. We call that, we said, intentional staging. So you need to have a clear idea of who the target market is, who most likely is looking to buy your home. So there are some external factors, such as location, right? Are you in a suburban residential area where people are a bit older? Or are you in a place where it's kind of buzzy, there are a lot of young people, most likely it's close to places where people actually work? And those are some of the external things that you can look at to make sure that, you are not staging a studio apartment for someone who has, a family, or like vice versa. Or if you have a pool in your house, you're not staging with a baby cot, because most likely a family with small children are not looking for a pool just as yet. It doesn't mean that you might not strike it right, but as we know that when you're focusing on your buyer, you need to look at the biggest sample and where you're most likely going to get a buyer for your house. So that's the first thing that we need to look at. Then when you look internally with each of the rooms, you can look at, the living room, look at the size of it. As we discussed, you can look at the proportion of the furniture with the house and the layout. So some places, for example, if you walk into a room, you need to make sure that you're not walking to the back of furniture. So for example, when you walk into a living room, no one wants to see the back of a couch, right? So then that's when you then align your couches so that they're facing each other, and then there's like an entryway. So that's what we call making sure that there's a nice space and flow in the house, right? If, for instance, you've got maybe not a wall that's preferable and it's blocking an open plan, which a lot of people actually like because it opens up the space, consider what that would actually involve if you were able to kind of create an open plan with it. And just to make sure that the living space is telling a story. What do people usually do in a space? They watch TV, they have conversations, they have games night. So if you know that it's a games night kind of place where people would be playing games, the furniture can turn inwards because it creates a feeling of conversation. If they're watching TV, the furniture has to turn where and focus on the TV. So be quite intentional on who most likely would be buying here. If it's young people, most likely they'll be talking, facing each other. If it's a family, they might be focusing on the TV. If there's a fireplace, it is one of the most beautiful ways for you to create emphasis on something quite beautiful in your home. If you don't have a TV to put up there, use a painting, right? You don't have to make it expensive. Have a painting that's going to be the center of focus in your living room so that it directs the eye in a way that is pleasant and aesthetically pleasing for your buyers. Again, make sure that the paint of your living room is flattering. So you don't want perhaps a color that's jarring, especially if it's the first room in your house. So you don't want perhaps maybe a yellow, even if it's the most beautiful yellow in the world. It's okay. Let's just use, gray or white, something a bit more neutral to make sure that it's not kind of like a shock factor, because a lot of the time it might be the first room that you enter into. And then also, if you have, lastly, if you have a situation where there's an overlap of spaces, it happens a lot with open plans. Your dining is in your living. Find a way to show designated uses. Be like, okay, especially if the house is really big, be like, this is our living room and there's a rug. A rug is an amazing way for you to be able to say, this is the new scene, this is the new functionality, it's a new purpose, even though you are designing an open plan, right? So the living room is one of the places that, that's your shoe in. Like if you're staging a home, your living room is definitely one place in which you can be able to show the best parts of your house, because people want to imagine themselves having a cup of coffee in the morning. People want to imagine themselves on a Sunday, reading a book before, getting back to work. So you need to create those little sanctuaries of showing someone, this is what you can enjoy from it, this is what you can expect from it, right? Then we move to the next room, which is let's do the bathroom, right? Okay, so a bathroom is one of those hit or miss places, because think about it, right? If you
Yes,
are
so
shopping,
many misses, Athi. I think many viewers at home will even agree. A lot of us find ourselves viewing properties and the bathrooms are hideous. Whether it is the tiling that's chosen and it's just a jarring color. A lot of people tend to like those Kilimanjaro tiles from the 1990s, and you're thinking,
exactly,
why are you still putting these tiles in a bathroom? We're supposed to be in a modern era right now. There's no reason why I should be looking at such a bathroom. So more often than not, a bathroom is such a mess. And we know how expensive redoing a bathroom is. So you certainly don't want to have to buy a place where you're going to have to redo a bathroom, because it's an expensive exercise. But like I said, it's often such a miss. So suppose your bathroom is a bit of a miss. You're certainly not willing to, spend money in redoing it because you're now done with that property. What are some, I'll say, budget-friendly things that you can do to make it as palatable as possible?
Okay, so first things first, it's, for example, cleaning your tiles. So maybe you don't want to replace the tiling on the floor, but you can clean like grout, and maybe it's me as well. Yes, I'm a home stager, but I am also a property buyer. Nothing that I hate more than the dark lines in tiles.
Yes.
That can be easily removed. Almost 1,500. You completely remove the grout or replace it or clean it, just to make sure that it's not as bad, because sometimes the bathroom is really bad. And you raised something about expensive, but think about a house with only one bathroom. It's like, if I were to move in, where am I going to shower for the first couple of months? So it's a functionality thing. So a bathroom is actually very important. So after you actually clean the floors, perhaps you get someone to quickly do something, or you can do it yourself. You can use, there's like baking soda.
Yes.
Peroxide, hydroperoxide. You get those chemical, you ask a chemical friend of yours, like, what do I need to bleach? You then basically sit, if you have a free weekend off, you can scrub in between. That's completely free. But what you can do is you can actually DIY that with just a bit of bleach and washing powder, and clean between the tiles and make sure that the surfaces are quite clean. In the event that that does not happen and you're actually dealing with the walls, maybe they are not great, painting, of course, paint it white perhaps, that will open up the space. My favorite secret all the time is mirrors. I love mirrors so much, especially in a bathroom, because what it does is it opens up the space. As it reflects the light in your bathroom, it will then create the illusion that your bathroom is bigger than what it is. And everyone loves a big bathroom, of course, especially if the home only has one bathroom.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that you are using your mirrors quite strategically to make sure that there's illusion of more space than is. So after you've cleaned it, you've done a bit of painting, you then put in your mirrors. Then the last secret for bathrooms, and guys, please get your notepads out, get your pens, it's shelving. So everyone is always very concerned about storage in a bathroom, right? Because, you know, you don't want toothbrushes and, you know, towels. You want to make sure that everything is hanged up properly. If there's a shelf, a nice shelf, or rolled up towels, maybe if you have guests, you can roll up a bit of like a few towels, put it in there, decorate the space a little bit. But shelves and storage is actually one of the ways in which not only does it help get things off the floor, but it can help you, you know, accentuate beautiful things about your bathroom by using decoration on the shelves. So it's open, but you need to make sure that it stays clean, because it's awkward if you got open shelves, it's messy. But but you know, like if you can make sure that you've got a plant there, right? You've got a plant, you've got a mirror. Most surfaces are white, it's open, and you just clean the floors. If there is a bathtub, a bit of paint, like tile paint. There's a lot of tile paints that are available out there where you can make sure that if the bathroom inside is dirty, like there's that ring sometimes that happens to like old houses. So it's not dirty, it's just permanent ground. Slap some paint on that, you know, do the floors, bleach them, paint them, have your mirrors up, your shelves, and a little bit of a plant, and a little bit like pictures that kind of like little portraits, and then you're good to go. That's your bathroom.
Perfect. Athi, we're going to go for a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be taking more questions and comments from viewers at home and getting some last DIY tricks from Athi to help us stage our homes better, whether we're selling them or putting them up for rental. We'll be back just after this. Welcome back to episode 51 of the Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Zamantungwa. This evening I'm joined by Athi, who is the head of property design and a home staging consultant at CASA GRANDE. And of course, we're looking at DIY hacks for staging your property, whether it's for rental or for sale. We are taking your questions and comments at home. Athi, we've got a question here coming in from Mkateko Ahape, who asks, what's the best grout cleaner? You know, you're already giving us those DIY hacks of how we can, clean the grout in our tiles, make sure that when people come view and you know your bathroom is not in the best state, make sure that you clean the grout as much as possible so that it looks brand new and probably even looks like tiles were recently put in. So which grout cleaner would you probably recommend as one of the good ones?
All right, so one that you can actually use is having a baking powder. So baking powder has like bleaching properties, so you'd be able to get the grout out. You just take some hot water, you put that in a bucket, hot water, and then you'll take your washing powder, just your normal for washing your clothes. Take a little toothbrush, you know, the old ones. You will then get in between those and get those little grimy things out. For the people who have access to chemicals, but you need to be careful with this, you need to just put on some gloves, and then you're gonna get yourself some hydroperoxide. That as well is a bleacher. So you can then just get in there with a toothbrush, I would say, because, you know, the lines are quite small. So you can use that alternatively. But I would just say, you know, just your good old washing powder, your baking powder, some hot water, and you get real up close and personal with that grout, and you'll be good to go.
I can't imagine myself. Surprisingly, I've used the baking powder hack, not so much for the bathroom, but for the kitchen.
Yes.
Sometimes it even helps when you're cleaning out your oven.
Yes.
And you've got all that oil and grease in the oven. So yeah, so making that little concoction, putting it there, letting it sit for a couple of minutes, and then like wiping it does help quite significantly. So I can attest to that DIY hack that it's a winner. It really is. So now, Athi, we're looking at the different spaces. I think the one space that we haven't quite explored, which is quite an important one when it comes to telling the story of your home, is of course the bedrooms. What are some quick DIY hacks that we should use for our bedrooms? Because I think a lot of times, as you were saying, you want to declutter, you want to deep clean, and you also want to depersonalize. Bedrooms are sometimes very easily personalized, and it's easy perhaps to maybe take down some of the more personal pictures, put them in the wardrobe. But then how do we then make sure that the bedroom is still aesthetically pleasing? What can we do? Because I think not all of our skills are quite there in making sure that spaces look beautiful and well put together.
All right, so the bedroom is actually probably the easiest when it comes to this, because there's actually a formula of things that you should have in your bedroom. So first and foremost is that intentional design, again, the intentional staging, because whose bedroom are you staging? Firstly, if you're an adult, don't have a single bed, because people can't imagine, even though they can obviously remove. Only 5% of buyers, guys, only 5% of buyers are able to vision a space beyond what they see with their eyes. So even though you might have a single bed and of course they'll just, put in their own bed, but sometimes even those kind of things will become a problem. So if it's a master bedroom, have a good size bed. If it's already your bed and you're not willing to change it, that's fine. Duvet covers, and something that's a full set. White duvets with white pillows are one of the best ways, because you don't have any taste. Again, you don't want to show like a specific pattern that you love. Maybe other people don't like floral, and you think it's actually the best thing since sliced bread. So you need to be careful with those kind of things. Some white linen, I would say, is your go-to. It's very safe, very clean, crisp, and will be a nice layout. So first and foremost is the duvet covers. And whose bed are you doing? So I'm going to just assume you're doing a master bedroom, because that's the one that you most likely take a picture of. Let's say it's online. So if it's your bed, you cover it nicely with a duvet, some pillows. Try to also put quite a few pillows. And let me tell you why. When you're basically taking pictures of a bed that's full, there's also this idea of comfort. It's much more homey. So if you've got a lot of pillows to kind of, have a nice picture up, especially online, the whole corona thing, you need to make sure that it has kind of like a beautiful picture online as well. So pillows, white duvets, that's the first one. The second thing that you need to always have is some sort of side tables to anchor your bed. It's just nice because it kind of balances, and symmetry is actually beautiful to the human eye. So anything that's symmetrical helps the human eye feel at peace. So once you've got asymmetry, be careful of that. It kind of is quite jarring, and people psychologically it's been proven that you always need to have a bit of symmetry. Then you also have to think about a seating area. Some people do a bench at the end of the bed. If perhaps you want something a bit more simple, or you want to use something that you already have at home, you could have maybe a seating area at the corner of your room, if your room is big enough. If not, that's absolutely fine. But it's always nice to just have kind of a seating area, especially a bench at the end of the bed. That looks very, very beautiful. And then you can always have maybe a painting just as you look out from the bed, straight from the view, because then it also leads your eye to something quite beautiful. So the walls, you have your paintings up. Remember, neutral paintings, nothing too personal. It could be something that will just allow emphasis on on basically your house and the places that you want to accentuate in your room. So and then also, last thing is, if maybe the person kind of works and there's no office space anywhere else, or maybe the place is too small, you can think about maybe having a place where you could show where someone will be able to set out a place for them to work. But then of course it also depends on who is it for, Is it for somebody young? And is it a studio, or is it? So those are some of the little things. But I would just say duvet, neutral, your whites, always beautiful. The side tables, a place for you to be. When someone's sitting in bed, they can see where I'd be able to fit, put my book down, put a coffee down, put something before I sleep. I need to, put something on the side of the bed. Try to narrate that for them. Try to have a seating place just in case they're in their room, they don't want to sit on the bed. A lot of people, it's very important for them to not always be in bed. That you can always have for them as well. And then try to use paintings and beautiful visual, like little visuals that you can have in your room that kind of above the bed is one. If not, straight above, like in your vision when you're sitting on the bed, the wall opposite to that is another place for you to put beautiful paintings to allow the buyer to be like, okay, I can see myself being here. I can see myself living here.
Athi, one last question before I let you go this evening, and this one coming in from Original Cup Sister, who asks, how much is too much when it comes to scatter cushions on the bed?
I would say even one too much. The thing is, so it depends, right? It depends. Like, so I would, if it's simple, right? Then I would say that perhaps like do it. And if it's kind of like not jarring, or it's kind of like too many florals or something like that, can use like throws. You can use just simple, one single palette, kind of pillows. But if it's something where it's kind of like a 70s feel, or it's too old, and then you just got a lot of that, then it could possibly be too much. If it's a single palette, you can have that. You can put a little throw on it on your couch just to get everything together.
Athi, we're going to wrap it there this evening. Thank you so much for joining us on the Private Property Podcast. I was taking down notes. I think I'm even going to just use it for my own home, never mind for staging purposes. I think it's always great to learn tips that enhance even the space that you yourself are living in. So I'm certainly going to put those into good use. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Athi.
Thank you so much for having me. And to everyone out there who is looking to sell their home or even buy, it's Youth Month, guys. I really would like to say a big thank you to Private Property for having me this evening, as well as joining conversations like this. I know I've kind of like broadcast and marketed to a lot of my friends, a lot of my real estate friends as well, Nick, Tim. It's very important for us to engage in conversations like this, speaking about the importance of one day we'll own homes, right? And one day we're going to sell homes. And I know a lot of my friends and I were always talking about, real estate and property. So thank you so much to Private Property for having CASA, GRANDE and I, as well as some of the young people on a platform like this, so that we can actually start engaging with a financial asset, guys. That's what property is. Beyond obviously a home, it's an investment, it's a potential investment, it's a potential financial security. So as we go out in this new coronavirus world, let us constantly innovate. Let us constantly change industries in the South and move the needle in South African property. So I'm really excited to hear the conversation again. I'm still going to be with you guys on a podcast, and everyone else out there, please feel free to ask me any questions. But thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Athi. And of course, if you want Athi's contact details, we have shared them down below, and you can check out more of her work. If you want to reach out to her, you're more than welcome to do so. And of course, we're always going to be having young people, on the show. I'm young myself. I turned 30 in January. A part of me is still shocked that I'm actually now officially in my 30s. And I think I'm quite passionate about property, and certainly passionate about having conversations with fellow young people around property. It's quite an important asset class, and I think certainly as young Black South Africans, it's an asset class that often is very difficult for us to access. And so platforms certainly like the Private Property Podcast helps us in making sure that we're able to tap into the property market. And once we have that foot in, how do we best manage that asset? And that's something that is quite important, and certainly something that I'm very passionate about. Before we wrap up this evening's show, we're going to go for a quick break, and of course after this we'll be announcing the winner of that 5,000 Rand cash prize. We'll be back just after this. Welcome back to episode 51 of the Private Property Podcast, Gremlins in the System. And it's happening on a Tuesday. Tuesday is one of my favorite days of the week. It's my second favorite. And so nothing can ever have me shaken on a Tuesday evening. But we're back. We're going to give away that amazing 5,000 Rand cash prize. We're ready on our end. We're about to do the lucky draw. Before we do that draw, remember, these are the rules for the lucky draw. So, of course, for the next 10 episodes, this was from a few days ago, we are giving away 5,000 Rand at the end of our live property podcast. And these are the 3 rules for the draw. The first one is that the competition is only open to the people who entered the 100,000 Rand competition. And this also includes the estate agents, as they are not employees of private property. The second one, the winner is going to be randomly picked, as we're just about to do so right now, and we'll be announcing them live on air. And that last one, the private property team is going to contact whoever the winner is. We've already just pressed the, the picker, and whichever name comes up, that is the person that private property team is going to be contacting. They're going to be contacting them within the next 24 hours. And it's very important that you pick up that call, because in the event where we are not able to reach you in that 24-hour period, then the price is going to roll over. The picker has started rolling, and our winner is Janita Jane Sanders. Janita Jane Sanders, congratulations. You walk away with that 5,000 Rand prize. Congratulations. I keep saying this, I wish I was the winner. This is so much money in the grand scheme of things. In the middle of a global pandemic, I'm sure, all of us would probably love to get that 5,000 Rand prize. Well, a lot of us, unfortunately, can't enter the competition, but what you can do is enter the 1,000 Rand competition. And that is, of course, when you share your dreams, aspiration, goals when it comes to property. And we'll pick the top 2 comments that share those dreams, goals, and ambitions. And we'll be announcing the winner next week, Friday, on the 3rd of July. So all the best to everybody who's going to be sharing their incredible dreams, their goals, and their property aspirations. We certainly enjoy reading all of them. And of course, also congratulations to Janita Jane Sanders, who walks away with that 5,000 Rand prize. Well, folks, that's it for us this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, we're back tomorrow evening, where we'll be talking all about property. We really are on this learning journey together. Of course, remember, if you have any questions, comments, or even suggestions of topics that you would like us to tackle, then do send them through below, and we'll be sure to bring in the right expert to help us better understand the matter. Until then, I hope you're staying at home and staying safe.
Hello, Howard Magazine here. So what I've taken from the podcast really, and what stood up for me was the product by ABSA. Didn't know that much that with ABSA you can incorporate your future rental income into your affordability, and you can also use products like rent books with TPN, where with that they are able to then establish your ability to run your own portfolio. So yeah, I would say more than anything, between Michelle Dickens and Miguel Mountains, those were my highlights from the podcast. And really what we would like to get from the show is the structure. More than anything, I think a lot of questions have been asked on how people can structure their purchases on properties, being the P2 Ltd, private companies, and or trusts, and how you can get all those together while you are running your portfolio, and how you while you're building your portfolio. So yeah.
Owning private property. Okay, so basically what I have learned over in the podcast and what has benefited me is that the fact that even though you want to purchase a property, you don't have to like rush or have a whole lump sum of money to actually purchase a property or invest in a property. You don't have to have a big deposit to actually invest in a property. You can start small. You see, we as small-time buyers or people that rent to buy like us, we don't really know the concept, so we become very naive. But with watching the podcast every time, it makes us very, very clever, and it really helps us in a way whereby we don't make hasty decisions and we make the right decisions. So thank you so much for that. I'm looking forward to further podcasts. Thank you.
Weekly basis by the podcast, and I hope that you, if you haven't listened to any one of them yet, that you get to experience the immense growth and wealth of information that is available to you. So thank you so much, Private Property.
Good evening to all. Thank you for choosing me to be a part of the 50th edition Private Property Podcast. New technology will always have a big impact on education, and podcasting is no different. Podcast in general is a great platform to connect with great experienced guests, an open dialogue, especially around the unknowns of the global situation we are facing in society. The greatest take from the podcast was definitely the episode with Zama, when he discussed exploring active buy-to-let proposition and how about growing my property portfolio. This has definitely assisted me with my way forward, growing that portfolio and property finance portfolio. The podcasts with Gil Spurley are also very interesting and informative. I learned a lot from them as well. Using the podcast to learn can encourage us to engage with the profession and not to miss any details. This property podcast is one of the best things that the organization could have done, and I hope to see more in the future. Thank you.
Tips for dealing with the bank. So perhaps you're renting in a property where it is run by a body corporate.
Understanding the basic calculation, income minus expenses, and you want to be left with a positive income.
It is a very tough game. It's not easy at all.
To stay ahead of knowing exactly what your clients need, what their teething issues are.
Have a joint mid-end inspection.
That a lot of people that are coming into sectional title homeowners associations are, just like you described, not only first-time homeowners, but first-time owners and residents in community schemes.
They get to see the perspective from the other side of the aisle. And I think that's a really important thing to do.
It's a market that's estimated to be transacting at least 9 billion rand per year. So it's a huge market.
In order to get there, you need to be able to build up a track record.
Your cash flow model needs to be sharp.
A quote comes to mind. The best time to buy a property was about 10 years ago. The next best time is now.